Okay, let's get this party started. Let's do this. Welcome to the Anna Hummel show. Sorry, I apologize. I got carried away talking about bodybuilding with Macho Man. Both of us are, well, him more than myself, are fans of the sport of bodybuilding, if we can really call it that. I think it's more like a pageant than it is a sport, but I mean, it certainly takes a hell of a lot of discipline and a lot of time, a lot of commitment. But yeah, I've been following the sport probably since I was a kid. My dad was a big fan of Arnold, and I watched Pumping Iron, and much more interested in bodybuilding than I am in football. A lot less characters to remember. You know, you'll hear one guy here and there. I like looking at the freak show because that's what people want to see, and that's why nobody really cares if you're doping in bodybuilding, because people go there. I forgot. I think, was I watching Pumping Iron, or maybe it was a different one, but I think they were trying to monitor anabolic steroid use, and then they realized, oh, the people there want to see absolute freaks, and so they just kind of opened the floodgates and said, what the fuck ever goes, man. Get as big and crazy and cut as possible. I don't think that bodybuilding is necessarily a healthy sport. There's certainly a lot of dangers, a lot of problems with the heart, it seems, where a lot of these crazy bodybuilders suddenly drop dead in their 30s and 40s. But I don't think anybody would claim that it's about health, about fitness. It's just about the aesthetic. It's about looking like a Greek god. It's about being as symmetrical and muscular and lean as possible. And I know a lot of people do some dangerous shit to get to that look. I follow mostly the women. They're not really, I mean, it's in the realm of bodybuilding, but they're like the bikini competitors. I follow a lot of those girls because they tend to preach that they're all about health, wellness, and fitness and working out. And it is true. Like working out, weightlifting, doing cardio, that's all great and good for you. And probably even the workload is fine. Like I don't even think that they're overdoing the workload. Maybe some are. It's really the cutting of the calories that I think is the most detrimental, because that's when you start running into problems, especially as a woman and certainly as a man. I would say, and Macho probably knows more than me, but for men, I think that the bodybuilders are getting to like 2-3% body fat, maybe. The women are getting down probably in the high single digits, maybe anywhere between 9 and 12. I've certainly fucked around with having a pretty low body fat percentage, and at a certain point, not sure when that was, probably around like 16, 17. Actually, maybe my threshold might be higher. I think I got my body fat tested when I was a freshman, sophomore in college. I was probably about 19 or 20, and my body fat was, I think it was like 18 flat. And I wasn't getting a period, so I can only imagine what those bitches are going through. And a lot of them run into hormonal issues, because I mean, at least those are the ones that I'm following. And they're not even taking, most of those girls aren't taking any drug, PEDs or anything like that. As the bikini competitors, as they get more muscular, I think it's like figure, physique, maybe reverse, and then bodybuilding for women. But the bikini competitors usually are drug-free, and they just get their body fat just gets so low, and this crazy yo-yo dieting of, I see him blow up maybe 30 pounds in a month, and then drop crazy amounts of weights real quick when they have a show coming up during their prep. So most of those girls, they're in the cycle probably for 5-6 years, and then once they hit usually right around 30. This is a trend I've seen with a lot of those girls, is they run into serious hormonal issues. The thyroid shuts the fuck down. They can't get out of bed. They can't cut the weight. They can't control their computer. They don't know what's going on. And it's not a good time. They usually have to quit the sport, go on some HRT, and fix their life. But yeah, anyway, so that was kind of a little short side note about the bodybuilding that Macho and I are invested in. We like watching the freak show. 813-90 Bubba. Next week is a big week for everyone, for me, I guess, not for anybody else, but I'll be hosting the show Monday through Friday. And I'm excited about it. I like challenges, and we're gonna do a great show. It's gonna be fun. It's not gonna be the same, obviously, without Bubba. You kind of need Bubba for the Bubba Love Sponge show, but we're gonna do a great show. We have a full house. Everyone except Bubba will be there, and it's gonna be good. It's gonna be smooth. I'm ready for it. I've got it in my head. I got to get in the right mindset. That's why I don't like surprises when it comes to hosting. That's certainly no fun. I don't know. I've had that happen to me, I think, once or twice here, where I walked in maybe 5:56 a.m. and then was told, "Hey, you're hosting a 4-hour show. We go live in 90 seconds." And I'm like, "Fuck me, running. That's not cool. That's not cool at all." But if I get enough of a heads up, then it's fine. I can prepare myself, obviously, for the show, but more so the mental game. You have to have a certain mental game going in. I certainly don't mind hosting. I love hosting a show. It's usually a little bit anxiety inducing when I'm hosting someone else's show, because they like things done a certain way, and oftentimes maybe they might make you feel a little bad for the job that you did, even though you tried your very best. You tried as hard as you fucking could. Hello, Mike Thurman 999. Thank you so very much. I really, really appreciate it. Yeah, so I'm excited about it. It'll be great. I almost choked on my own, but 813-90 Bubba if you'd like to call in and participate in the show and what we got going on today. We got a few things that I need to cover that we needed to talk about. Something that we kind of talked about that I thought we were going to talk about more during the main show, but porn adult film star Jessie Jane, who I believe's real name was Cindy Howell, something like that. I looked her up. I didn't really know much about her. I saw that she died yesterday before Bubba posted anything about it, and I didn't know. I'm like, she kind of sounds familiar. I don't know. And then as soon as I saw a picture of her, I'm like, oh yeah, I've definitely seen that bitch for sure. She died of an overdose. We're not sure what kind of drug. We were kind of, I don't think it's come out yet. I might be wrong, but last night it just said it was an OD. They're investigating. They don't suspect any foul play. I believe her and her boyfriend OD'd. Which I feel like that means it's fentanyl, because I feel like it's quite unusual for two people to overdose on heroin. Maybe not for two people to overdose on heroin at the same time and die that way. But if you think that you're taking something else and you accidentally grab some of that fentanyl, that certainly can be a problem for all parties involved. So I think that is probably what happened. But certainly multiple people can overdose doing, their usual, the bread and butter. I'm not sure if I told the story before. I think I may have, but I used to work as a bartender in many different places, in California, in Michigan, in Australia. Never a great bartender. I like to, I kind of have the gift of gab, so I can talk shit a little bit. But much like here, some people appreciate it. Some people do not. So that kind of, it was I don't want to say I was a polarizing figure, when I was bartending. But usually if I felt like someone was kind of cool, I'd kind of open up to them. Maybe say something that's not so PC. That's usually a good filter for people that it will like you. If you kind of open up and you make a joke about, they say, ma'am, and you go, don't assume my gender, if they're not, part of the alphabet soup, perhaps they might chuckle, and then they feel closer to you, and it's cool because you kind of opened up and they laughed, and you got, you made a bid for connection, and they responded well. So that's always nice. So I remember when I was in Michigan, there were these two cops that would come in all the time, almost every night or every other night. And they were undercover cops, this is what they told me, and that they did a lot of drug busts, which I can imagine they never ran out of things to do in Detroit, Michigan. And one time they both came in together, and I was asking about me, I'm fucking nosy, trying to figure out, get some intel. And also, when someone does something like, hey, Brian from Philly, $20, they're going to get the horn. When someone has an interesting job, Like, for example, I met an ER doctor the other day at jiu-jitsu. Like, I'd known the guy. I didn't know, like, what he did. I asked him. He's like, I'm an ER doctor. I'm like, oh, you've probably seen some shit. And he's like, oh, yeah, I've seen some shit. You know, I've pumped a heart with my hands. I've held brains in my hand. I'm like, oh, shit. So these two undercover cops, I wanted to hear the stories. I wanted to hear the tales of things that they've found or crazy situations that they've got themselves in. Or Kurt Martin, is that $1.39? Fuck yeah, I'll take it. Every dollar, every penny is very much appreciated. Thank you so much. So I was talking to these two undercover cops, and I was like, what's the fucking craziest shit you guys have seen? And they both like looked at each other and gave themselves a look, and one of them said, should we show her? And I was like, ugh. I was like, is it a dead body? I'm kind of squeamish. I don't know. I don't know if that's the move. And he's like, it's not bad. He's like, just kind of like an odd situation. And I was like, all right, sure. So he pulls out his phone and he shows me a picture of two deceased bodies, but they were in a very unique arrangement, configuration, where it was a man and a woman. And, well, the woman was blowing the dead guy. She was dead too. So, you know, I just see this configuration of bodies where this woman has a penis in her mouth and the guy's just laying there, what seems like in ecstasy. $5. What's up? Clit rubs? Is that? Thank you, clit rubs. Appreciate ya. And I remember looking at that photo and my first question was, who died first? That is what I wanted to know, because I was like, what is worse? Like, you're getting blown by a dead chick. Oh, yeah, so they both overdosed is what I'm saying on heroin. They both overdosed on heroin. They died in that position. That is how they were found. And so I wanted to know who died first. Did the woman die? In which case, a guy was getting blown by a dead chick. Not great. Or the reverse could be that at one point, the guy dies first, he ODs first, and she is then sucking off a dead guy. I would argue that's probably the worst situation of the two. Yeah, I think you'd probably want to have a dead chick on your dick than you be sucking off a dead guy. One of those, I think it's a clear-cut answer that the latter would be much worse. So anyways, lots of cool stories that I got as a bartender. Things I learned about people. And you got to believe that if you come to me and you don't have like, and I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody who has like a very comfortable corporate job, but if you work in marketing or communications or HR, like, we're done. I'm not going to ask you any more questions about your job, guaranteed. I'm just like, you probably work remotely now. You have Zoom meetings occasionally. Nothing crazy happens. If you tell me what you do, you could probably tell me a dozen times. I'm going to forget because I think it's boring. But if you come to the table and you're like, yeah, I'm an undercover cop or I'm an ER doctor, there's going to be a lot of follow-up questions. Or maybe you're a stripper. Maybe you volunteer that information to me, which, by the way, is a mistake. Unfortunately for you, that is a mistake. And I know I talked about this a few weeks ago where I was doing a jiu-jitsu. And I complimented me being a former dancer, not a fucking stripper dancer, but my mom owned a dance studio. So I did dance, tap, jazz, ballet, that sort of shit. And so I notice a good arch. When I see a good arch and a pointed toe, I can appreciate it because I certainly did not have that. I was not genetically gifted with nice arches or pointed toes or anything like that. My mom took me to the doctor because I was pigeon-toed and I had a really strong, like, sickled foot. That was my default setting, you know, not this beautiful turnout with the pointed arches and whatnot. I had like sickled feet and I was pigeon-toed. My mother took me to the doctor like I was fucking Forrest Gump when I think I was 8 or so. And the doctor was like, all right, why don't you walk down the hall? And I just remember like looking at my mom. I'm like, fuck you. And I just walked like ever so perfectly, you know, making sure that the feet were completely parallel with one another. And the doctor was like, I don't see a problem. And my mom was like, this fucking bitch, she doesn't walk like that. So it was really hard to prove. And so my mom was not impressed. But anyways, didn't have to have like braces or anything on my legs. But yeah, so I complimented this woman at jiu-jitsu. I said, you have really nice arches. And she's like, thank you. And I go, did you do dance? Because I feel like that's a normal question to ask. You have like a ballerina's foot. And she said, no, but I was a stripper. And I go, that was a mistake. You shouldn't have told me that. Because now I have a lot of questions. JHM3, $4.99. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. And we are going to keep the money rolling in next week when I'm hosting. So please, 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 God, yes. I don't want to say save your money, but save your money. Make it rain big on Monday. Because I feel like once the money starts coming in, I can relax, Bubba can relax, everybody can relax because, money, this is a listener-run operation, and we need your help so that we can stay on the air. And I just don't want to get yelled at. That would be cool. That would be very cool. So there is a override button in case I get too much in the weeds with conspiracy theories, or anything else that people don't like hearing me talk about, which are none of you, because you guys like listening to me, obviously. So I'll try to keep the niche honest stuff to a minimum, but not gonna lie, it's probably gonna be a little light on the sports. We'll talk about briefly the game on Sunday, the AFC, NFC, LFC, NDA, IBS, whatever. We'll talk about those games briefly. Probably not going to talk too much about Indiana, unfortunately for you guys. I'm so sorry. I don't think I've ever been. No, that's a lie. I've taken a train through Indiana. I was going from Michigan to Chicago. I was on a train because I was poor, and it was an Amtrak deal, which is kind of cool. Like, you just get on, you don't think about anything, you can just fucking fall asleep, and then boom, you're there. Yeah, it takes fucking 7-8 hours, but what else were you gonna do? You fucking drive, and you get lost, and gas, and it's so much easier just to get on a fucking train, pop in the iPod. This was what, 2000. I think I still had an iPod then. It was like 2015 or 14, 13, and I was on my merry way to Chicago. And I remember hearing overhead on the intercom, like, next stop, something, something, Indiana. And I remember having the thought, like, wow, I've never been in Indiana before. This is crazy. And I looked out the window, and I remember thinking, ugh. Like, just close the window. I'm like, whatever. So that's my only experience in Indiana, was taking a train that I remember going from Detroit to Kalamazoo, and then somehow we got through Indiana and then Illinois, and there I was in Chicago. So yeah, that's my experience in Indiana, so we'll probably have to keep the Indiana talk, the Midwest talk, to a minimum. I do apologize about that. Don't really know too much. Well, I know about the Midwest. I didn't grow up there, but I spent time there. People are very nice. That is what I will say. They're very, very nice, and they're very proud people. They're proud of where they come from. Bubba in the Warsaw, and my roommate in the Cleveland, and where I lived in Michigan and Detroit. People are very proud. Because they know that it sucks, and there's just less. They need to defend where they're from. It's very important to them, because when you tell someone, like, you're from Detroit, someone who's not from Detroit, you tell them I'm from Detroit, like, they're like, it's not a good reaction to, like, oh, that's rough. And then you gotta, like, rep it. And I've said this before, when I tell people that I'm from San Diego, there's no winning them over. They've either been or they've heard amazing things. Those are the only two options. They're like, San Diego, their eyes like light up. So there's no need to defend. So oddly enough, like, you don't have that sense of, like, pride, because no one is, like, roughing it in San Diego. I mean, there's addicts, don't get me wrong, and a lot of, migrants, whatever, but it's not that people don't have problems. But when it comes to just, like, day-to-day living, in terms of traversing the climate and the weather, it just doesn't really exist. I mean, it gets a little cold in the wintertime, but it's nice. It's a very temperate place to live. It's a lovely place to live. I would say it probably has some of the best weather on the planet. You really just can't beat it. Tampa and Florida is awesome. Like, don't get me wrong, the winters are super swell, but the summers it gets hot, but it's mostly the humidity. People don't like the humidity, but in San Diego, you got none of that. You got none of that. It's way drier and not as humid. Very nice place to live. So you just don't feel the need to defend. And oddly enough, you're just then like less, I don't want to say like less proud, but kind of. Because much like when you go through something traumatic or you have to deal with a lot of adversity with other people, it really helps you bond and connect with those people. Like, man, I'm from Detroit. And that's what I noticed about the Midwest, because the winters are so, unbearable and just tough to get through, that you're just like, how are you doing? Like, the weather's crazy. Like, it's just a constant conversation that you have with people and you bond with them. Whereas in San Diego, everybody's a transplant. So no one's like from San Diego. Like, no one's really from Tampa. I mean, there's a few, but the red flags. But most people are not from Tampa. Most people are not from San Diego that live there. So there's just less like unity. But then when you talk about the city, just awesome. You got to ask yourself, is my city where I'm from, a vacation destination? If the answer is a hell no, then those people are going to be really proud to be where they're from, Whereas if you're from San Diego, you're like, yeah, and it's great. Yeah, it's awesome. You don't have to win anybody over. So it's very cool, very cool. Let's take a call right now. Hello, who's this? Oh, it's Joe Supermark. What's up?
I'm laying nice. I'm just talking to a lovely lady now. We're trying to work on some things. No, it's all good. It's all positive.
Okay.
But I wanted to ask you one little question.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you about the female bodybuilders that you're talking about that you follow.
Yeah.
Do you ever check out any of the ladies wrestling nowadays?
Like WWE or like Greco-Roman?
Yeah, any of them. I mean, it's all the professional wrestling, whether it's Impact Wrestling or whether it's Ring of Honor. So what's going on now is, back in the day, they used to focus on the divas and using like supermodels to wrestle.
Yeah.
Now they're focused more on toned, more muscular women, and that's the main focus now. So if you've ever heard of Jade Cargill or Jordan Grace, or all these girls are just unreal. Kayla Rossi's the biggest one. When you first started talking about it, Kayla Rossi popped into my mind.
No, I don't.
She's so jacked, but so beautiful.
No, but the bikini girls are not jacked. Like, they're typically like they're pretty frail. Because the goal is to be like as lean as possible, and the bikini competitors are the least muscular of the 4 categories of bodybuilding. Because you look at are they wearing shoes? Like, if they're wearing shoes, like heels, it's not like traditional bodybuilding. When you start getting into like, I think it's physique and then bodybuilding with women, the shoes go away. There's no more shoes. But the first 2 categories, because it's more of like a feminine category, they wear those like stripper glass heels. Does that make sense?
I got you. The major question I called in for, based on the last story you were just talking about, you wanted to know who died first in the situation.
Yeah.
As a man, I want to know, did the guy finish before
That's a great question. That's a great question. Maybe he was just absolutely elated. I don't know. I feel like, and again, I don't know too much about heroin use. I've never used heroin before, but I feel like it might fuck with your erection for some reason. I was thinking maybe it'd be hard to get an erection. It would be hard to get hard while you're on heroin. But maybe I'm wrong. I really don't. I don't fuck with opiates at all. I never have. I think that opiates are wildly dangerous and wildly addictive. And this is someone who like did drugs recreationally, but I just think that opioids are the devil. So whether they're synthetic or natural.
For a different reason, I'm in a totally different situation because opiates don't work with me. So I tried the Vicodin and the Oxy and the Percocet, and it doesn't touch my pain. I'm in so much pain, it doesn't even touch it. So the only thing that worked for me was IV Dilaudid.
Okay.
IV Dilaudid took me from being in level 10 excruciating pain and took it away for like an hour, hour and a half top.
Yeah.
Gave me the most peaceful rest. Laying in the bed, and I'm just dozing off, but I'm still awake, and I can still hear. I'm aware, but I'm like in a perfect world. You know what I mean? It's just like, and when it goes in, when it goes in the IV, you can feel it like go up your spine, and you can feel it like it's just
like
it's
an
pretty
epidural.
amazing. I've never had one of those, but
neither have I. But I mean,
about this
spinal tap, Willie.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not about all that. Hey, the good news is I got a roommate.
Oh, that's great. You have some company now?
Yep. So I got a roommate last night. They forced it on me, even though I begged and pleaded not to have it happen. And I let 7 reasons out why this should happen. It still happened.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, it really sucks because my life has been a living hell ever since. So I'm going to work everything in my power today to try to remove this problem.
Okay. Well, I don't know what that. Are you going to? Please don't kill your roommate. That probably won't end well.
I can't get over there, so I can't do
that's right. You're mobile. So I guess that works out well for him. I'm assuming it's a him.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, do you think maybe you guys could be buds? You know, maybe it'd be nice to have. Is he? Can he hear you right now? Is he like? Can he hear that you don't want him there? He can hear you right now. Can you address him?
Thank you so much. I was just talking to the lady.
Can you? What's his name? Can you tell me his name?
Charles.
Can you address him for me? Can you just be like, "Hey, Charles, I'm talking to my favorite radio personality. Can you say hi? Can you do that for me?"
Charles, are you awake? I just wanted to let you know that I'm on a radio program, my favorite radio program, and the lady on the television wants to say hi. Anna, why don't you wave at Charles?
Hey, Charles, what's up?
Give us a wave. He's waiting for you. There you go. See? He's waving at you.
I can hear him. Okay, cool. Well, yeah, tell Charles I said what up. What's wrong with Charles? Can he tell me?
I have no idea.
Hey, what's wrong with you, bro?
Charles? What? She wants to know what got you in here.
You want to know what?
What got you in here? What's
wrong with you, motherfucker?
I don't know.
He doesn't know. He doesn't know. It's a mystery. All right, I'll leave Charles alone. I'm sorry. Is he old? I feel like he's old.
Well, in dirt.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I'm guessing. I think you're probably the youngest person in there by like at least 40 years. Is that safe to assume?
Exactly. And people don't know how to handle it. Like the nurse came in this morning. She's an agency nurse because everybody's got COVID in this entire place.
Really? Let's go. I didn't know COVID was still a thing. I thought that was like 2022.
It's killing this place. Everybody's gone. All the people, the administrator, the director of nursing, the maintenance man, the activities director.
Yeah, it just
gone.
Spreads like wildfire. And how many? I mean, probably a lot of people are going to die from COVID because I mean,
I would say
I feel like a lot of the people that you're around are immunosuppressed and may have some comorbidities. So. It's probably lights out for a lot of the folks that you're seeing around the home.
So last night I was hella stressed because I keep an AC going at 62 degrees in here at all times, and my body runs really hot. I sweat, I'm nasty. But if I keep the fan and the cold and I got the window open, I should still be able to maintain some kind of level of comfortability.
Yeah.
Well, the first thing Mr. Man does is walk right over and cut the AC off right away.
What a bastard!
Exactly. And then for the next step. He decides to cut all the lights off in the room at 7:30 at night, and I stayed in the dark all night, all the way until after 8 this morning. All the housekeeping guys here now. He doesn't speak any English.
Oh, man.
Hola, amigo. Bien, bien, y tú? Okay. That's all I got for him.
Great. Awesome.
Are you gonna
Sounds like your Spanish is improving. You're going to be bilingual by the end of this.
Well, see, what you didn't know is that Holyoke, Massachusetts is 75% Puerto Rican, not Spanish, because they're not from Spain. They're from Puerto Rico.
Okay, but also when we say Hispanic, like we talk about people from Mexico, they're not from fucking Spain either. I mean, we talk about people being Hispanic and all from Latin America or Central and South America, and none of those people are Spanish, but we all call them Spanish. Even those people that aren't Spanish call themselves Spanish. I had this argument with someone that I used to work with at Horn Blasters. I believe he was half Dominican, half Puerto Rican, and he would always say, yeah, because I'm Spanish. I'm like, bitch, you're not fucking Spanish. You're not from Spain. He's like, you know what I mean. I'm like, even you're generalizing about yourself. This is a disgrace.
And then the whole misnomer of I speak Spanish. Okay, well, how come when you speak Spanish is different than when I speak what I learned?
Yeah, I don't say I'm English because I speak English. That doesn't make any sense. I'm American. Even though that's been disputed on this show as well. You got my papers.
So right before you picked up, I decided to call for the nurse and have the nurse come in here and I need him to perform a test on this guy because all of a sudden this morning he started blowing his nose and sneezing and coughing like crazy. And my first concern when they offered to bring him in here, I said, I don't want you bringing COVID into my room. You can just stop touching my stuff now. Just leave everything alone, please. Just go.
Is that Charles or is that the nurse man?
Housekeeper Willie.
Housekeeper Willie, back off! Well, he doesn't speak English, so you need to fucking just say, I don't even know how to say leave.
Well,
say chinga tu madre. I remember that from Bless Me Ultima. It means fuck your mom.
It's funny because the other housekeeper, she's female. She doesn't speak English either. She's Spanish.
Is her name Esmeralda?
So this is the funniest thing is that while I'm talking to her, I'm saying, "Cómo se dice?" and I say the word, and I want her to.
Yeah, but she doesn't speak no English, right? So she doesn't fucking know.
That's the thing. "Cómo se dice?" means how do you say?
I know. I took Spanish 3.
The housekeeper just turned off all the lights in the room, and now we're sitting in the pitch
She's
black.
punishing you.
This place fucking sucks.
Just say chinga tu madre really loud.
What is it?
Chingar means to fuck, I think.
Yeah.
Tu meaning you,
Chingar
and then madre means mother.
Chingar tu madre.
Okay.
He doesn't. He's a stone. He doesn't like.
Yeah.
Nothing affects him. Nothing. Like I can say like. My dick just fell out of my bed on the floor.
I wish I could say that in Spanish, but I don't.
Oh, yes.
I know Pollo Loco is crazy chicken. It's limited.
Brother, I understand you say you don't speak English, but I don't think you speak at all. You just kind of grunt.
He's a mute.
He's not annoying.
He's a mute.
And the worst part is that the funniest thing is that they leave my trash for like a week and a half, and it fills up till it's heavier than me. They're the huge garbage bags, and I have to beg to get it dumped. But here's the thing. The aides, the PCAs, CNAs, they won't dump it. They say that's at the housekeeping. And the nurses say, well, let me call housekeeping, but then housekeeping never comes.
Yeah.
It's a big joke. Everything in this place is a farce. Even to the point of trying to get a delivery from Instacart or DoorDash. That's when I realized, over the past 2 days, I tried to get a DoorDash and I tried to get it. They don't even want to come in this place.
Okay. I feel bad because I feel like you don't really have anyone else to talk to except yelling at the Hispanic mute guy that's cleaning up your stuff that you're getting mad at.
You asked me to.
I know, but you're rambling. You're going on and on, man, and it's just getting kind of crazy. I'm sorry.
Will you back me down?
I'm sorry, Joe. I didn't mean to steal your thunder or anything like that.
No. I need to stop at some point. If you don't stop me, I'll never stop.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, Joe. I'm sorry, but thank you for calling in. I tell Charles I said what up, and I hope the situation improves for you. Okay.
Yeah. Well, this is gonna sound cheese penis, but God is in control. So whatever God wants to have happen is gonna happen.
Yeah. That. What you said. Thank you so much, and God bless, Joe.
God bless.
God bless. Whew. I get it. Like, if I didn't have anybody to, talk to and I was bedbound all day, like, I would certainly kind of, just let it ride. I mean, look at me on this show, right? When we talk a lot about sports and a lot about things I don't know about, I have to keep it all in, and it sucks. But then on Fridays, I get to just, let it out. I get to be free, which is nice, which is so very nice. So, yeah, Jessie Jane, dead, 43, not great. Is it kind of the most rock star way to go out? Kind of. No. I don't want to say suicide is, but when you think about the great troubled people that were, well, here's the thing. I don't know if she was considered a great talent, I'm kind of thinking of the 27 Club when I think of Jimi Hendrix or Kurt Cobain or Janis Joplin, where they lived these crazy lives. They're wildly talented artists, and then they just fucking overdid it. I think all of them, no. Some were unintentional overdoses, obviously, and then Kurt Cobain. Did he shoot himself in the head or the heart? I can't remember, but he is dead. So I don't know if we can throw. I know Jessie Jane is 40. Well, was 43, so she's not quite in the 27 Club. But is it the most rock star way to go out? Just fucking drugs? I don't know. It's certainly tragic, but it's I don't know. I'm trying to think of a word to describe. I guess just rock star. When I think of people who were troubled and they were seriously talented, but they had these inner demons, and their legacy will be about their troubled in her mind and the things they had to deal with and the beautiful art that came out of it. I guess I'm mostly just thinking about Kurt Cobain, where he was just a great songwriter, great musician, great frontman for Nirvana, and unfortunately was taken too soon, but kind of dealt with these inner demons that nobody really saw. And it kind of, when you exit the world that way, especially as young and as accomplished as he was, there's this kind of like mystique that just follows you, where people are very intrigued by your life and like sort of things like you were dealing with, and like you probably had a really hard childhood and all these sorts of things. So when you take yourself out that way, there is this sort of mystery that envelops the character and your legacy. That didn't really happen for Avicii, I realized. You know, Avicii, most people probably listening don't listen to electronic dance music, and that's totally fine. But Avicii was a massive name when it came to electronic dance music and being a DJ. I think he came from Sweden, if I'm not mistaken. They're usually either from fucking Sweden or the Netherlands. That's usually where all the heavy hitters are from. Not all, but many. If they're from Europe, they're usually from one of those two countries. And Avicii, I want to say, I think he surpassed the 27 Club by 1 year. I think he was 28. And that motherfucker, I think he broke a wine bottle and slit his own throat. I think that's how he went out. I don't know. I don't think that's as rock star as the shooting in the head. I don't know. I'm not trying to promote suicide, obviously. But also you got to think like Kurt Cobain's music was much different than Avicii's music. When I think of like Kurt Cobain, it was like disturbing. It was a dark, twisted sort of, it smells like Teen Spirit sort of shit. Whereas like Avicii, I mean, I don't know if you've ever heard fucking Levels, bro, but that might be my favorite track of all time. If you've ever heard Levels by Avicii, I think they also sampled, I think it's Etta James. I could be wrong for that track. It's just a badass song. Check it out. Levels by Avicii. And you've all heard it probably. You just didn't know it. It's been in many a car commercial before. But whenever I hear that fucking, it's not like a chorus. I guess like that riff. It just fucking gets me so absolutely amped. And the last time that I was in Vegas, I think I saw Avicii. I don't know if I snuck in. There was something where I don't want to say did something dirty, but I found out some way to finagle my way into his, I think it was at Wet Republic. So it's just this giant pool, and they have a DJ. And I definitely saw Snooki, or like her hands, because she was like so short. She was behind the DJ booth. I remember seeing these fucking tiny little hands. I'm like, who the fuck is that? And my friend was like, that's Snooki. And I was like, oh, wait, no way, that's crazy. So I'm like, trying to peek around, and I definitely saw the fucking like beehive, and she was like she called herself a meatball. But yeah, she was like short, brown, and close to the ground. And I'm like, damn, that's Snooki and Avicii. This is awesome. And then that same weekend, I believe I saw T-Pain walking around. I saw Paris Hilton, Dead Mouse. I think that's pretty much it. Great weekend. Had a great time. 813-90. Mike Thurman, I don't know if that's a new one or not. $9.99. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. Very, very much. I did want to talk about this. We didn't really get to cover it, but we kind of talked about it a few days ago. Kenneth Eugene Smith, he was put to death. We were talking about the death penalty in Alabama, because that's where he was being held on death row. He'd been on death row since, I believe, 1998? 96. He was sentenced, imagine this, you're sentenced to death in 1996, and you have to wait 28 years to be put to death. Dude, I mean, I get there's a lot of legal beagle stuff involved, but if I'm going to be put to death, I mean, don't put me on pause for 28 years. If I find out I got to die, let's do this like they did it in the French Revolution. Like, oh, you're guilty, bitch? Time to go to the guillotine right now. Just sitting there for 28 years thinking and pondering and appealing and not appealing. And then finally, and then they try to kill you, and it's a botch job, and you fucking pull through. And now they're like, this motherfucker won't die. So I guess he was the first person in U.S. history that was put to death by nitrogen gas. Ugh, not great. This article says, wife of killer Kenneth Eugene Smith cried out during his historic 22-minute-long nitrogen execution, which witness described as horrific as he thrashed and convulsed on a gurney. Number one, that is a loyal-ass bitch right there. This motherfucker was married to a man that was on death row. I imagine she was one of those, twisted individuals who probably started writing him after he was convicted of killing this pastor's wife, which he was then, put on death row for. The wife of Eugene Smith cried out as he thrashed around. He became the first person in history to be let's just say in U.S. history, to be executed via nitrogen hypoxia. So I guess it's just straight nitrogen gas, and you essentially suffocate because there ain't no oxygen. Smith, 58, was put to death Thursday in a horrific 22-minute ordeal when a gas mask was placed over his face before a stream of 100% nitrogen gas suffocated him inside the execution chamber in Atmore, Alabama. The murderous spiritual guy, Jeff Hood, described the execution as the worst thing he had ever seen, claiming prison officials gasped in shock as he died far slower than anticipated. Because this guy's a beast, man. You have to understand, he made it through the last execution attempt, and so they had to, I don't know if he was convulsing for more than a few minutes. He can't really go for too long without oxygen, but when they turned the nitrogen on, he began to convulse. He popped up on the gurney over and over again. He shook the whole gurney. Smith was officially pronounced dead at 8:25 p.m. local time, 22 minutes after the nitrogen gas was first administered. Ooh! At 8:07, a corrections officer leaned over Smith and examined him before stepping back against the wall to let the execution continue. So I guess it started at 22 minutes, 8:03, and then 4 minutes later, some guy leans over and is like, "Oh, doesn't look good," and then just allows it to continue. At one point, as the killer tore against the restraints, his wife, Deanna, wearing a T-shirt reading "Never Alone," desperately cried out for him from the witness box. Why the fuck is there a witness box? That feels like that is just absolutely not the move. But I guess... And also, why would you want to watch that? Maybe it's like putting your dog down, like putting your husband down. You gotta be a real one. You gotta hold him, the dog, while they're putting him down so that he's comfortable. Maybe, you're showing comfort for your significant other, but also ew, now you have to live with those memories forever. That seems like a bad, bad time. And why can't we just euthanize fucking, humans like we euthanize dogs? Can't we? Why does it have to be? And I think the answer to that is that these companies who administer drugs for euthanizing dogs really don't want to have that, because euthanizing is like a nice thing, right? It's murder, but it's nice murder, right? When you take your dog to be euthanized, you're like, put it out of its misery. We allow our human, brethren to suffer when they're like, please, I want to die. You go, no, you gotta live until you die on your own, which is oftentimes far worse. I'm a big fan of if you are terminally ill and you're in a lot of pain and you're suffering and you ain't getting better, I think that you should have the option to die in a dignified way on your own terms. But that's just my opinion, which doesn't really matter. But it seems like we have all this compassion for dogs. We don't really have all that kind of compassion for humans, which seems bizarre. So it's why can't we just euthanize the humans like the dogs? But I think the answer to that is that no pharmaceutical company really wants to put their stamp of approval on a drug that's going to kill people. But I just think that would be the most humane way. I assume. I don't really know how that. I've never worked as a vet tech or veterinarian. I don't really know what they do to euthanize dogs, the protocol there. But I feel like if you just up the dosage, you could probably use that same protocol for humans. But, it goes from euthanasia to execution. It's pretty much the same thing, but it dressed a different way. You're putting the dog out of its misery, but then you're killing the human. And so, I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird dance that you have to play when you are a country that kills people under the law, because you want to make it humane, you want to be nice about it, but also you're killing someone. And I've said this before, I'm not a fan of the death penalty. I don't like it. And that's not because I have all this compassion for the murder. It's not, that is not the case. I just think it gets real fucking slippery slope when we're giving the government power to take heads off. That's all I'm saying. When you allow that sort of thing, when you open that door, even if the person technically deserves it, I just think that we don't want to concentrate that sort of power in any government body to be able to say, hey, not only is this person guilty, but we're going to take their life. That just gives me the heebie-jeebies. I don't like that. I feel like that's more of a medieval third world way of handling things. I'm more than happy to sequester them for life, meaning in prison. I'm more than happy if they want to opt out of doing the prison and just die. That's fine if it's like on their terms. Hey, I don't want to do this life in prison deal. I want to die. Okay, no problem. We can arrange that. No problem. But when someone else is determining that someone is going to die, that has the power, imagine like the power that you feel that you have the ability to kill someone or to, save their life. I think the governor is that, maybe I'm wrong, and I don't know if it depends on the state, or the president maybe, where the government, someone else can have the power to say, actually, no, we're not going to kill that guy. That seems to be bizarre as well. Someone can step in and overrule the whole, or veto the whole trial or sentencing say, and say, actually, no, that person is going to be spared. So I don't like it. I'm more of like a smaller, limited government kind of gal. That's just kind of how I roll. I understand that there certainly is a role for government. I'm definitely not an anarchist. But I don't like consolidating the power to take lives in the hands of just a few. That makes me feel uncomfortable. But I know that a lot of people disagree with me, and they think that person deserves to die. And I'm like, right. And you're missing the point yet again. Of course, in my mind, that person deserves to die. I'm not saying this guy necessarily, but just, let's say Nicholas Cruz, right? Nick Cruz, the Parkland shooter, right? Killed, 17, 19 people, 17 students, 2 teachers, something like that. Does he deserve to die? Yeah, I think he deserves to die. Do I like putting that power in the hands of the state? No, I do not. Not comfortable there. That gets us into a weird spiral of fuckery that I just don't want to engage in. I know we were going to talk about another situation that happened regarding Vince McMahon, and I don't really know anything about wrestling or about defecating on people in threesomes during sex. I don't really know anything about that either, but that seems to be pretty fucking scandalous. I briefly read into the allegations, and right now they are just allegations, but I think that there was a woman who came forward, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, a woman that came forward and said, hey, this guy, did they say he pressured her, or he did some stuff during a threesome? He shit on her. She couldn't take a shower for 2 hours thereafter, and I guess abused her with toys that were named after WWE superstars or something like that. Pretty scandalous claims. Probably, I would love to hear the interaction he had with his wife. I think he's still married, right? That he had with his wife and maybe his children. And I think he even has grandchildren. And to just be like, hey, Grandpa, is this true? Were you really having a threesome with this lovely lady and you shit on her chest? Did that happen? Even if that's just an allegation, which it is right now, the fact that you have to talk about that with someone that you love, to me, is hilarious, is awesome in my book, because it's so demoralizing for that sort of stuff to come out. How embarrassing, even the Ziggler stuff where, yeah, there's a rape accusation, not good, at least there's no shit involved, but how absolutely embarrassing. That stuff that's happening in your, and most people would then be like, well, what about Bubba? Yes, it's a great point. I'm just trying to think of a different example. That's all. But something that's happening in your private life, your most privatest, your secret fantasies. We all got stuff maybe we're not proud of, And Louis C.K. has this great bit that I saw him do live. And he's just like, everybody knows my thing. And so he kept saying, everyone knows my thing, that, I like to masturbate and I like it when hot women watch me jerk myself off. That was Louis C.K.'s thing. And he's like, everyone knows my thing. He's like, Obama knows my thing. And that was really funny to just think of someone that maybe you hold in high regard, maybe a boss or a parent or a mentor or whatever. And that person fucking knows your thing. And it's so embarrassing. And that's why you just don't put anything on camera. That's why you just stay away from the camera, folks. Don't have anything in writing. Don't have anything salacious on camera. These are my dad always told me from a young age, not the camera part, but just in terms of writing. He's like, if you're going to do something dodgy, make sure there's no evidence of it. If you threaten somebody, make sure you whisper it in their ear. You don't write it. You don't text it. You don't email it. You just say it so that there's always plausible deniability. That was something that my father taught me probably when I was in second grade. Don't write anything mean. He never said don't say anything mean, but he's like, if people are fucking with you and you need to take care of business, and I understand advice is different for, our sons and our daughters, but being a young girl, my dad was like, if anyone's fucking with you, and you want to tell him, like, hey, I'll slit your throat. He's like, you just don't write it. You just take them aside and you just kindly whisper it in their ear so that nobody else can hear and there's no witnesses, and you don't write it down. Don't do that. It was funny. I don't know if my dad was involved in some shit, but he just, from a very young age, there's few things my father taught me, and one of them was don't write anything down. That could potentially get you in trouble. No evidence. And then he taught me manners. You say please. You say thank you. And I'm trying to think of other things that my dad told. My dad was constantly like ribbing on me all the time. Like sometimes he'd like call me the R word, but like, I don't know. I thought it was funny. Like my dad was like, would always call, not dumb, but I don't know. It was a funny thing. He'd always just be like pretty smart for like a second grader. My dad was just, even when I was in high school and stuff. And I feel like I got used to kind of being ribbed without it never like touched my confidence. Like I always knew my dad thought very highly of me and I was a good student and everything. I had all the evidence to back up that I was a smart cookie and a good student and a good person. But I just, I was able to take a joke from a very young age, I think. Bubba Light! $9.99. I miss your brownie / cookie dough reviews, Bubba Light. Those brought a lot of joy and light into my life when I would watch them, because I really liked there's certain people I like watching when they're eating more than others, because I really feel the joy that they're experiencing when they're eating. And I really felt that with you. I really felt like I could taste and experience the joy that you were experiencing when you were eating that cookie dough. So I miss that, and I miss Carbio. Bring it back. 813-90, Bubba. So yeah, first death via nitrogen gas hypoxia, which seems like not a great way to go. I would like to go probably just lethal injection style. If I were to make a request, which I feel like you can't, which I feel like you should. Like if there's options, you should be like, I'd like to be shot by a firing squad, please, versus the state just getting to choose that. But oddly enough, which I know we've talked about it on the main show before, which I think is such like an odd tradition, is the Last Supper, or the last meal, I guess. The Last Supper, I guess that's reserved for Jesus. Sorry about that, folks. I'm a Jew. But the last meal is, although probably delicious, can you really enjoy it knowing that it's your last meal? And we all have a last meal. It's just for most of us, we don't know that it's our last meal, so we can actually enjoy it. But when you know it's your last meal, the last time you're chewing and swallowing and tasting, that can't be a cool experience. I just feel like that would fuck with my head. Can you just hard pass on the deal? I don't think I'd be too hungry knowing I was going to die. I think this motherfucker, Eugene Smith, he got Waffle House. I think he got maybe some fried chicken, or what do they have at Waffle House? Fucking waffles on it, duh. I don't know what he had, but I think it was from Waffle House, and apparently he didn't have much of an appetite. Yeah, no shit, motherfucker. And why are we spending tax dollars on the last meal? Not that it's that much. I'm sure they got to, they can't be like, oh, I'd really like to go to Ocean Prime. Obviously not. But, like, why are we giving these people who are going to be put to death in a few hours any sort of food, reward at all? It just doesn't really make any sense. Is that the humanity? Is that the dignity? Is that how we get out of saying that this is against the 8th Amendment, against cruel and unusual punishment? So it's okay that we can suffocate someone to death with nitrogen gas as long as they're filled with fried chicken when we do it? Like, what the fuck are we doing? I don't understand. I truly don't understand where this tradition comes from, or if it's some sort of like form of sympathy or humanity. Is that how we're showing humanity? That's how fucking fat we are as a country. It's like, oh, yeah, whatever, they died of a fentanyl overdose, or oh yeah, we're gonna electrocute them to fucking death, but we show humanity, and the way that we show that is filling people with fried chicken and chicken tenders and hamburgers and just all the stuff that fat fucking Americans love so much. It's what it means to be an American. Oh, it's going to space. There we go. Oh. Okay. That works too. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Appreciate ya. I'm going to get out of here. But there'll be plenty of me left. I feel like two things are playing at once. There we go. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'll see you Monday morning for the big show. Monday through Friday, you get me. How lucky. Please keep the complaints to my boss at a minimum. Just please, asking for a friend. But I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for all your support. Thank you to everyone that donated to the cause today. Brian from Philly. GHB. Fuck. Bubba Light. Mike Thurman. Brian from Philly. JHM3. There we go. Clit Rubs. All my favorites. Thank you guys. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on the other side. God bless.